Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel. And tonight I'm going to take a look at the draft, the team draft that we had today for the league we're doing for Tecmo Super Bowl, the DMen Tecmo League, with the NFL season just starting. We're going to do our own Tecmo League live at DMen Tap. Obviously, we're there most Mondays, so that's when we're going to get the games in. We have 15 players in the league. Each guy just needs to show up about once a month to make everything work. And like I said, we have 15 guys total. Looking to add a few more as we go on. We're playing the 1991 schedule, and of course, we're using the original game. But that is not why we're here. We had the draft today, and let me talk a little bit about how we organized. How's it going, Brennan? The chat box is open, so I will answer the chat as I go through this breakdown, reveal the teams that each guy drafted, and then give some of my predictions, what I think will happen. So first of all, let me share the screen here as I explain how we did this exactly. So we took the original tier list. We're playing Madison. Rules where you're not able to lurch. No substitutions of wide receiver at running back. Stuff like that. So this is the tier list that we used for the draft. So what we did is we tiered guys based off of their skill, and that's where they got to draft their team. So we had two guys in tier 1, which were Marshall and Brian, two guys in tier 2, which were Brutus and my brother Matt, and then we had 7 guys in tier 3. So that was the most interesting tier of all of them for the draft, because originally we're going to do a tier 3A and tier 3B, but then we had a late entry. The third Daniel's brother joined us. What's up, Bro Gamer, in the chat? So then that made it would have made one guy not have any choice of team, so we just opened the whole tier up for the 7 guys, so at least everyone had a chance at drafting a team. Then we had 2 guys in tier 4, which were Joseph and then myself. And then tier 5, the only guy that drafted in tier 5 was Flo, because Mort, heading into this, gave himself the worst team in the game, and we'll talk about that in just a second. What happened? Is this a funeral? No, I'm drinking a zombie dust right now. I'm just getting into the mix. Okay, so let's look at the teams here. Let's look at the draft. So first pick was Marshall, right here. So Marshall, very good at video games, very raw at Tecmo. Marshall's a guy that's really good. Yes, Brian did draft. He got the next draft pick. Marshall, I went to his apartment one time, played him in some video games. He beat me at every single game. We didn't play any sports games, but they were all competitive games, and he was able to take me down. But he really didn't grow up playing Tecmo, so his experience playing the game is playing with us at DMen Tap, and he's only got a few games under his belt. So that's why I'm saying that he is very raw at Tecmo. So let's take a look at the 49ers, the team he got. I mean, they really don't need any introduction. They're the best team in the game. Of course, he's going to have Joe Montana at quarterback and then Jerry Rice. That's the ultimate combination with that 81 reception, 81 pass control. That's the strongest in the game for making catches. You can make a lot of covered catches on even good defenders. So really, he just needs to figure out the 49ers just a little bit, and he'll be just fine. He just needs to figure out that when he's in doubt, he could just throw up Joe Montana to Jerry Rice. And then they're pretty easy to play defense with. They got a ton of options, but for someone who's newer to the game, I think just using the 2 safeties is the best bet to go with because they have a ton of speed. Ronnie Lott's their fastest defender, and then Waymer, he's not much slower, and he's got a 69 interception, so it's going to be huge for him. Marshall is going to be one of the more dangerous players because he's so raw. We don't really know what he can do. We know currently he's not that good at the game, but if he progresses because he's a good video game player, then he could be super dangerous in this league. All right, let's look at the next draft pick. LJC drafted kicker, number 1. No, we drafted teams, so every team's going to have a kicker. Here we go. Next guy drafted, Brian. Brian played at the Tecmo Hardcore Championship in Chicago. He's a very passionate gamer and golfer. He plays with us most Mondays at DMen Tap. He takes a lot of losses, but this year he's been getting some wins under his belt. So he's showing some slight improvement. He holds the record for the worst loss at a Tecmo tournament, 94-0. And my cousin Sean was nice enough to do that to him. But he wanted the Houston Oilers, and honestly, they're probably the best team for him. Brian doesn't usually want to take too much advice from what we give him. He likes to just sling the ball pretty quickly. So he's like a 3-step drop guy. And Brian is a seasoned Tecmo pro. Yeah, he's got some games under his belt. So with the Oilers, he's gonna have 4 good receivers to throw to. So with Warren Moon at quarterback, he'll get some covered catches. And that's really the type of offense he needs to run. 49ers would be good for him too, but obviously they have maybe 1 less receiver. But yeah, the Oilers are going to fit Brian well. We'll see what he could do on defense. That's really what he needs to learn offensively because of the team he has. He'll move the ball a little bit and score some touchdowns. Houston is good to heave with. Yeah, we're trying to get Brian to realize he can hold the ball longer with the quarterback and just throw one up, but he just likes that quick strike offense. So, yeah, the Oilers here, obviously, Drew Hill with the he's their best receiver. Ernest Givens, Haywood Jeffries, Curtis Duncan. I mean, you got 3 75 reception guys and a 63 to go along with Warren Moon's pass control. That's going to be huge for Brian. And that's really going to be his whole thing. And that, obviously they have a good line. And for a guy like Brian, the topside corner, just using Richard Johnson, he probably should just use him every play. I don't see him as a guy who's going to be switching defenders on both sides. Yeah, what's up, Chris Reeve? Yeah, good cover catch for sure for the Oilers. So Brian's going to be using them, and I think they're the perfect team for him. He's shown glimpses in the running game, but even if he lives in Lorenzo White, then he might be able to get some yardage with them. Okay, let's move on to the next draft pick in Tier 2. All right, it was not Phil. Let's see, where did this go? So Brutus had the first pick in Tier 2. Brutus is a guy that plays NHL 94 at a high level. He's also mentioned that he plays Madden, I think the more current one. So he's definitely a guy who can play football games. Wouldn't you practice if every week you went to the bar? Yeah, we go to the bar and we play, so we're just making a season out of it. I think that's the best thing to do. What's up, Vidya Gamer? So Brutus joked around. He said he demands Guns N' Roses Night Train to be played during all his games because, of course, he has a Nigerian nightmare, and he knows it. So he went with the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's take a look at his roster. Kansas City Chiefs for Brutus. The Chiefs are just one of those teams that's just well-balanced all around. They have a quarterback with high pass control, one receiver in Stephen Page with his 75 receptions. And then Christian McCoy has obviously got that unique combination of one of the highest hit powers in the game for a running back, tied with a few guys, and some speed to go along with it, 50 max speed. So offensively, he'll be able to do some things there. His offensive line is stacked on the Chiefs. That's another good thing about them. Oh, what's up, Dragon Clutch? Rogue Gamer says he loves that song by Guns N' Roses. The Chiefs got a ton of options on defense for him. Like I said before, the Chiefs, if they have any weakness, and it's not really even a weakness, their secondary solid. It's just not elite. He has no fast, super fast guy there. A couple 50 max speed guys, 56 INTs, your best. And then Derek Thomas is the guy you're going to want to man a lot just because of his max speed. And then Percy Snow, a little bit of coverage at linebacker. And then, of course, they have the best kicker in the game. So that's something Brutus needs to remember, that he has the best kicker in the game. So even if he's on past his own 45, he can make field goals. So he doesn't even have to cross the 50 to hit them. And so he doesn't have to punt the ball away. So he just needs to remember that. And I think he should be doing pretty good with the Chiefs. All right, let's move on to the next player. Next player that drafted, the other guy we had in tier 2 was my brother Matt. Let me guess, you drafted the Dolphins. No, I didn't get the draft in tier 2. So, no, I didn't get the Dolphins. So, Matt goes with the Raiders. So, it says here, focused for a game of Tecmo one time and won that game. And then he has a custom Raiders playbook made by Mort. So, Matt's big thing is he just has trouble focusing. He does have Tecmo skill. He doesn't usually put a full game together, though. That's his problem. And then he doesn't really remember his playbooks. So Mort gave him a playbook. He took a picture of it, and now he knows to just plug that in and play with that playbook. The Raiders are going to be a perfect team for him, I believe, as well, because he has the fastest running back in the game. So to move the ball on offense, he doesn't really even have to pass that much, even though he'll have tons of speed at receiver. But, he could just run the offense with Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen and just run the ball. And then, of course, with Tim Brown, Mervin Fernandez, and Willie Gault, they have great receivers. Matt's pass progressions in Tecmo are nothing special, but he can pass the ball a little bit, and that pass speed will help him on Jay Schrader. Matt will say he should have picked the Lions. Yeah, well, he's not going to be able to say that because he's playing a full season. Raiders got a good O-line. Their D-line is one of the best in the game. I think, the speed of the Raiders defense is going to help them. Obviously, most of that's not coming from the linebacker position. But the best position to have your best player at is the free safety, I believe. The reason I say that is because the running plays aren't as strong that go to the top side of the defense. So a lot of times you can just man that defender and not worry about their plays that go up there. There's ways to, go around the drones to still make tackles. And Eddie Anderson's the best player on their defense. So he could pretty much just man Eddie Anderson and have some success. But, of course, he's got Howie Long and Greg Townsend, so I'm sure he'll mix those in as well. But Matt stopped playing to get in the Smash tournament. Yeah, they play some Smash over there, some Super Smash Brothers. So, yeah, I like him with the Raiders. We'll see what he can do. Hopefully he's motivated to get some wins. If he focuses, he can make some noise. All right, let's move on to tier 3. So tier 3 was the one that was stacked with 7 players. Phil, the owner of DMen Tap, got the first pick in tier 3. And I found this nice picture of him on his Facebook of him playing. I didn't know he played football, and he was on the Vikings. So I'm going to have to ask him about that next time I see him. But the Vikings are the perfect team for Phil. He won 3rd place at the Equalizer tournament we did at Michael Anthony's Pizza back last October. And then, you know, he plays best while drinking a few and using the Vikings. Phil likes to experiment with his playbooks quite a bit. That top 5 defense of the Vikings really helps him out. I would say, you know, he has a winning record with the Vikings when he plays. He has a way of staying in games and then hitting Anthony Carter for the big deep ball when he needs it. So I like Phil with the Vikings. I haven't seen him succeed with another team like he does with the Vikes. So with the Vikes, of course, Wade Wilson is just, you know, your average to slightly below average quarterback. But he's a good JJ quarterback. He could throw into those jumping catches quite easily, especially with Anthony Carter on the receiving end. And Rogue Gamer says, Matt should have always taken advantage of your knowledge and Mort's, but he was a dick. But now he is growing up. I hope, yeah, he's growing up a little bit. At least he took his advice on a playbook. So, yeah, he's got Anthony Carter, Herschel Walker. You know, he's not the fastest running back. He'll get the job done for a few yards. I've seen Phil be able to run Rick Fenny for a little bit and make him do something. Hassan Jones, he's going to be your second wide receiver here, and then you got Steve Jordan. They got a good O-line, the Vikings, and this is where they really shine on the defensive end. You know, Chris Dolman's a stud, especially with that 69 hit power. He can get in there on some weak offensive linemen and get some youth or drone sacks. And then on the line, Phil's really got to utilize Merriweather on that top side with that 44 interceptions. That's really nice to bring back into coverage. 50 max speed is solid too. And then, you know, you got Keith Millard for those sweeps. People try to run that 69 hit power. You can just blast in there. That's a good option defensively. And then taking a look at that secondary, it's one of the better secondaries in the game as far as speed. And Joey Browner's just a stud, one of the best secondary players in the game. So he's going to be manned a lot. Also gives them a strong punt returner because of his speed. And, yeah, the Vikings, they really got a lot of speed on defense. And like I said, they're good for Phil. And I'll make my predictions once I get through all the teams, so you see what divisions each guy is in. Is Joseph churning butter right now? I don't know what Joseph's doing right now. All right, so second pick in the draft for tier 3 was my cousin Sean. And he went to San Diego Chargers. I thought there was 2 good teams for him to pick, and I think he did go with the team that better suits him. So he has great in-game Tecmo instincts. I would say as far as knowing all the player ratings, his knowledge could be better, but he played the game a lot. So in-game, he makes pretty good decisions. Chargers match his strengths, and then his one Tecmo Christmas Eve title that he won, he created conspiracy because basically the way we do it, I let the bottom seed draft their team first all the way up to the first seed, and Sean got the whole family on board to draft teams so he could get the Giants at the second seed. So he did win that tournament, but that was the only one he won, and I think it was Giants over Rams he beat me. But Sean, Anyways, Sean with the San Diego Chargers. I thought he could have went Lions, but he's not really a scrambler. He's more of a guy with, you know, average pass progressions, and the extra speed that Billy Joe Tolliver brings to the table will help him out there. And then, of course, he's got Butts for that 63 max speed. That is going to help him tremendously. Move the ball down the field and break some big runs. Sean's pretty conservative on offense. He's not really a guy who just chucks the ball up, for, you know, to receivers that are covered. So the Chargers are a good team for him because they don't really have a quarterback that you should feel comfortable doing that with. So it's going to be a lot of Marion Butts offensively. If he's got it throwing up, Anthony Miller's your best receiver with the 69 receptions. They have that good line to go behind and run the ball with Butts. Defensively, I wouldn't say they're an underrated team, but they have a top 10 defense in the game. And they have that one elite guy you want to use to control, Gilbert. Being on the bottom side corner is not always the best, but I think he'll make it work. And then you got Sam Seal on the top with 56 max speed at the corner, 50 interceptions. And then Leslie O'Neal, he's going to get in there to block some kicks. And that's going to help out a lot with that top side linebacker. Sean Cunningham, he is a player. He is a player. So, yeah, I think this team fits him well. John Carney, one of the best kickers in the game. So, again, Sean has to know that he doesn't even have to get to the 50 to kick some of those field goals. But with this defense of talent, he should be able to slow down some people. And he'll be in a lot of close games. That's usually how he plays anyways. He's in close games, so we'll just see if he could close them out. All right, next guy in Tier 3 drafting, I believe it was one of the Daniels brothers. There's 3 Daniels brothers playing, and they're from further down south Illinois. And Ryan was the one that had the first pick of the Daniels brother. Can you get Brian's position? Yeah, if you ever come to DMen Tap. But I don't think he's going to give it away too easily. So, yeah, that picture didn't translate to this little thumbnail too well. But Ryan, he calls his brothers in the league Pig and Corn. So I'm going to have to ask him about that, where they got those nicknames. But obviously, drafting the Rams, he believes offense wins championships because that's what the Rams are. They're a high-powered offense with not much defense. Let's take a look at the roster. The Rams, Jim Everett, obviously, he's a favorite quarterback in this game. Top 10 guy, 63 pass control with a little bit of zip at 56. They have those 2 receivers that are elite, both with 56 max speed, Henry Eller, Willie Anderson. If either guy is open or single covered, it's usually going to be a good throw. Then you have Cleveland Gary that gives you a little bit of speed out of the backfield, but the one thing you got to remember about him is his ball control is only a 38, which means he would fumble more. But thankfully, the Rams even got depth at running back. They got Buford McGee and Gaston Green, both with a 44 max speed, so not much slower. And Buford McGee has that 50 receptions, so he's going to be a guy you're definitely going to want to utilize on offense. And then even their tight end is slow, but Pete Holohan has that 56 receptions. They're another team that has a strong offensive line protecting Jim Everett, helping in the run game. But this is where they lack defensively. On the line, 338 max speed guys. But at linebacker, besides for Kevin Green, more 38s. So they're very slow up front besides for Kevin Green. Kevin Green's on the bottom side as a linebacker. You prefer the top side, but you can perform the lurch, the linebacker 4 lurch play, the dive in on the running plays that go up the middle. So you can't forget about that. Who's the Rams? Ryan Daniels is the Rams. And then Bobby Humphrey. See, the one thing about the Rams that I do like a little bit is even though they only have 250 MS guys, they're both on opposite sides of the ball, Bobby Humphrey and Vince Newsom, and they both have 56 INT. So that honestly isn't bad. Those two guys can make a difference defensively. With that 50 max speed, they're not really set up to slow down the run too much. But in the passing game, they can make a difference. Where's LJC? I don't know. He's probably working tonight. They have the worst kicker in the game. And one of the things to note about bad kickers is their arrow moves really fast. Sometimes that could be a benefit, especially if you're playing against a team that has a good topside linebacker, fourth man down on field goal blocks, because you can line up the kick faster. But obviously, if it's further away and it's a little bit off, they have a better chance of missing it. We'll see how Ryan does with the Rams, but offensively, he's got one of the best teams in the game, especially being at tier 3. He's going to light up the scoreboard. Next pick was another Daniels brother. Not Todd quite yet. Kyle Daniels. And he went with the Detroit Lions. So everything Todd tells me about him is he's a scrambling QB aficionado. He's really good with the Eagles, but obviously he didn't get the option in tier 2 to draft the Eagles. So he got the next best thing. Detroit Lions, they got Rodney Peete as the second fastest QB in the game, tied with Vinny Testaverde. And then even on the bench, you got Andre Ware at the 25 max speed. So they have 2 scrambling QBs on the team. And there he is wearing the Macho Man shirt. And he's got to be happy about the Lions. Who are these people? Some of them haven't been the DMen tap yet. But they're coming in for the league specifically. About 7, about half the league are guys you're going to recognize if you watch the Monday night streams, and the other half you are going to have to learn through us playing this league. So the Lions, Rodney Peete, Andre Ware, like I said, both scrambling quarterbacks. And then he's got the second fastest running back in the game. That's Barry Sanders at the 69 max speed. I probably weighed in his decision to pick them over Tampa Bay because I'm sure he was weighing his options between those two teams. And then, the Lions have more weapons besides just their scrambling ability. And Barry Sanders, Mel Gray, you could put him at receiver or running back. And he's fast and he has solid receptions. And then you got 2 guys with good hands. Robert Clark with a little bit of speed at 44 max speed, 69 receptions. Richard Johnson, very slow, but a 75 reception. So a couple guys who might be able to pull some covered catches off for the Lions if you're lucky, if Pete and Ware get the ball there. Yes, Chris, these are the Daniels brothers from Springfield. They're coming up to play. Even if you're interested, you only need to come up once a month. We're going to be there every Monday. We talked about a little bit maybe making one Sunday available a month to play some of these league games. So we'll see how it works out. Yeah, there might be some pinball there. I don't know if they're going to join the league, but they'll be making noise, that's for sure, at DMen Tap. The Lions, so offensively, it looks like he has everything he needs. Their line is just a little bit below average. D-line, their star's Jerry Ball. He can create some havoc because of his hit power and pretty good speed at nose tackle. And then Michael Koffer's a guy that you're going to use at linebacker for some extra coverage. And then Spielman gives you a guy who could bust in through the line on some plays with the 56 hit power. They have one really weak corner, and that's the top side corner. So against good one wide receivers, you're gonna have to look out for those burn routes. Other than that, you do have Ray Crockett as an option on the bottom side, but William White's pretty much one of the guys you're going to be using in the secondary. He's their best defender, 56 max speed, 56 hit power, 56 pass interceptions. So they have just about an average defense, but they have enough guys to man to make them very usable as a defense. And then they got a pretty rough kicker as well. Make QB challenge championship day before Bears game. All right, I'll think about that. I'll think about making that happen. So I think, he's got the team that he wants here, and I think he's going to perform pretty well in this league. If they play like Todd, because Todd's the only one I played out of the Daniels brothers, then they're both going to be really tough to stop with those two offenses. Then we had one guy in between the third Daniels brother drafting, and that is Pete. So Pete is the league's strongest man, and you see a picture of him there lifting the weights. I think that's a recent picture. We'll have to ask him about it. But he said he never lost a game with Tecmo until the hardcore tournament. So he was a new guy that we met through coming to the Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship. And he's going to join the league with us. So he's been to DMen Tap once before for that tournament. And he went with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, I don't really know what Pete's play style is per se. I think he can tap pretty well. He's a guy that's going to have a pretty large upside being a tier 3. Because he came into his first tournament and went 2-2, which is really good for your first tournament, going up against a bunch of seasoned veterans. Looking at Tampa Bay, Vinny Testaverde is one of the reasons that you draft the Buccaneers, because he is tied with Rodney Peete as second fastest QB in the game. Plus his pass control's better. Pass speed leaves something to be desired, only a 31. But that makes him a pretty good JJ quarterback. Gary Anderson's nice to have at running back because he's got some speed to break some big runs with the 50 max speed. Mark Carey's your one wide receiver. Pretty much your average 44 speed and then 63 receptions. And not really much else going on offense besides Reggie Cobb's hit power. And then you're going to put him at kick returner, but not much of a runner because he's pretty slow. Tampa Bay, they have the worst offensive line in the game, which if they didn't have Vinny Testaverde's speed, that would be a huge problem for them and probably make them a lower tier team. But Vinny can get away from a lot of these defensive linemen because of his speed. On defense, they're terrible on the D-line, and linebackers aren't good either. It seems like Eugene Marv makes a lot of plays, and Winston Moss has a little bit higher interceptions, which could come into play here or there. But really what it's all about is arguably the best defender in the game to man, and that's Wayne Haddix. He's tied for the fastest. He has the second highest interceptions at 75, and he's just going to be all over the field. So you're going to want to man. He's going to want to man Haddix pretty much the whole game. But having a man defender that is as good as Haddix can create a lot of problems in every game. So a lot of these games is going to come down to how good he is as a man defender because he doesn't have a lot of drone help. The other guy that he could man on the other side is Mark Robinson. At least the Bucks give you that option because he's a 50 max speed, 56 interceptions. And really, the best thing about the Bucks on defense is not just Haddix, but overall, they're a good secondary. All the guys are above 50 interceptions, so they could shut down some higher passing teams. Yeah, something to be desired. Crack Haddix. Yeah, sometimes if he goes into a higher condition, it looks like he's on crack and he's just all over the field. And the Bucks have one of the better kickers in the game too, so he's going to be able to boot some far kicks. It'll be interesting to see how Pete does with the Buccaneers. I would say Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team with tremendous upside. They can play with pretty much any team, but you have to play them with high skill because they don't give you a lot of help, in places where you might need it, like on the offensive line and defensive speed drone help. So we'll see how he does, but he pretty much figured that he wanted to use or pick them from the beginning, and that's the team he got. So we'll see how he does. Next guy drafted was the last of the Daniels brothers in tier 3. And that's Todd. So Todd, picture right here, plays some old-time baseball with his brothers. He's got some pictures playing. Todd is balanced player with balanced team. So he's pretty much good overall. He can use any team. So the Redskins are a perfect team for him because they have a lot of balance. And then, he's had some success at big tournaments, Tecmo Madison, and then Blono Tecmo. He's a regular there. Whoever's Tampa Bay is blessed. Looking at the Redskins, they're the team that eventually won the Super Bowl in 1991. Their biggest weakness on offense is at quarterback. Mark Rippon, Stan Humphries, you can really go either way, but Rippon's pretty slow. Even though he did make the Pro Bowl this year, I don't think the Tecmo developers saw that one coming, and he's only a 44 pass control. But the way their quarterbacks go, if they're hitting some throws, they can be very dangerous offensively. They have all the weapons. They have Ernest Biner with some solid speed at running back, and then 3 good receivers. Ricky Sanders is your speed guy. Your hands guy is Gary Clark. And then Art Monk is just like your overall hands guy, a little bit of speed, and even hit power for blocking. So he's a good guy to have like in the slot so he can block on running plays. And then you can even run them as a 2 running back offense because Kelvin Bryant has some speed with the 44 max speed, which is average. And then Gerald Riggs, you can't forget about him. He does have that 81 hit power, so you got to look at his condition. He might be able to make something happen. He's another guy that could be utilized to block. Offensive line, one of the best in the game, if not the best. Defensive line is respectable. The linebackers are just pretty subpar. Wilbur Marshall gives you a little bit of coverage help if you need it. They have the fastest man alive, Darryl Green, but he's really tied with Deion Sanders, Rod Woodson, Wayne Haddix. Interceptions isn't that high, though, only a 44. But arguably your best defender on this team is the guy at the other corner, Martin Mayhew, and he's a 63 max speed, but 69 interceptions. So he's going to put you in a position to guard some good passing teams with that 69 interceptions. So I'm liking that for Martin Mayhew. And he's going to be switching between the 2 corners a lot. Kicker is just average. But this is a good team for Todd. He's a balanced, really good player. And, there's going to be games where the quarterbacks let him down. And, he might lose some of those games, but he's got enough everywhere else to make him successful. All right, next pick up Was it DPS? I believe. Did I get all the guys in tier 3? I'm just looking real quick. I think he was the last pick in tier 3, if I'm not mistaken. Just take one last look here. Yeah. So DPS had a choice between two teams, and basically it was the Cowboys or the Broncos in tier 3. He's the league's most dangerous tier 3 player, because I think at the time that Mort ranked the guys for this league, DPS has shown a lot of improvement even since then, and that was only a few weeks back. So he's playing pretty tough, and he'll be the guy wearing the Jimmy John sweatshirt. He wears that a lot when we play at DMen Tap. And then also other accolades this year for him. He's runner-up at NBA Jam TE Cleveland tournament just 2 months, last month. So he's a big-time player. He's got the Dallas Cowboys. Let's take a look at his team. DPS has Troy Aikman. This is before Troy Aikman showed that he was a good quarterback in the league, but still he has a little bit more passing speed than average quarterback, but it's and then 44 pass control. But that's not why he drafted the Cowboys. Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher, yardage, 56 max speed. He's going to be your number one go-to option offensively, running the ball with him. But Jay Novacek, your tight end, is your top receiver, and he has a 69 hit power, 69 reception. So if you're going to throw anything up, Jay Novacek's your guy. Michael Irvin, this is a little bit before he broke out, is a top receiver in the league. So he's just at pretty average. And then your number one receiver is Kelvin Martin with the 56 receptions. So you kind of have to be careful throwing the ball with the Cowboys. You shouldn't chuck too many into coverage. They're going to be running more often. You know, DPS doesn't mind taking shots downfield, but he really doesn't have the team to do it. But he can also run the ball well. Emmitt Smith, that will work for him. Don't answer you. All right, I'm going. I'm going here. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. O-line is just they have some strong points, but a couple weak spots as well. Now, defensively, I think the Cowboys are underrated for what people think they are. They really have 7 guys 50 max speed or higher. One of them is on the line. That's Daniel Stubbs. But you got these 2 guys in the middle with 50 max speed, and even Ken Norton has a 31 interceptions, could bring you a little bit of coverage back on passing downs, and 44 max speed. Their secondary has good speed overall. Isaac Holt's your top interception guy, along with Washington, and then Manny Hendricks is the fastest guy in the defense, 63 max speed, 44 interceptions. And I talked to DPS a little bit about his draft, and he went with the Cowboys over the Broncos because of the defense, because of some of the passing teams other guys have, the 49ers, the Oilers, the Rams. He might have to play them at some point, and the Broncos secondary is really poor interception-wise, and they're going to have a tough time against passing teams, but the Cowboys give you a chance at least. Because they got a couple 50 guys. They have speed. And I think they're going to work out for him well. They don't have anything elite on the offensive side of the ball, as some of the other tier 3 teams do. But I think he's going to make this work. This is a really strong team for him to have versus, what some other guys his skill level are using. All right, then we have the Tier 4 draft. Green Magic had the first pick. Green Magic, he's just been on fire on NBA Jam TE this year. He won both the Madison and Cleveland championship one-on-one. He won the Tecmo Players Championship qualifier, so that was a $150 buy-in that he did not have to pay because he won that, and he beat a heck of a player in a best-of-3 final, and that's Tecmo Bo. And he's a very good game planner. He's a guy that will, have games where he picks all your plays, and he'll do some studying of rosters and your game plan, and he'll pull out some wins that way. He picked the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a team I was eyeing in Tier 4. I did not think Joseph would go with them, but he did. So let's look at the Steelers and just why he drafted them. Let's start with the defense this time because that is why he drafted them. The Steelers arguably have the best defense in the entire game. They don't have anyone slower than a 44 max speed, which is about average, but they have a ton of speed everywhere else. I mean, their nose tackle is one of the fastest with a 50 max speed. Then you got two linebackers that can make a huge difference with speed and coverage with the 31 interceptions. Rod Woodson is an elite defender in this game, 75 max speed, 63 interceptions, and then at 69 hit power, and the rest of the secondary is good with speed and interceptions. So the Steelers' defense is just all over the place. They could shut down even the best teams in the game, and you're pretty much in – you could be in every game with them if things go your way and there's not a lot of luck involved in the passing game for the other team. So let's look at their offense because it's probably the worst in the game. So you're really going to have to play field position with the Steelers. Rick Strum, Bubby Brister, they both bring something to the table. A lot of guys like Bubby Brister, like myself, because of that passing speed, even though his pass control's terrible, he's usually able to get the ball there. And if the worst thing that could happen is a wide open receiver drops a ball. Rick Strum, that will happen less. He just doesn't have that zip on the ball. As far as they have no speed on offense. 38 max speed. You got three guys at running back with that. So he's going to have to manage his conditions, see if guys go into good or excellent, and their speed increases. Lewis Lips has the most receptions at 56, but that's really low for a top guy. But he's the best that they have. So really, offensively, you just have to play smart, conservative, play field position with the defense, and hope the defense creates turnovers and gives you good field position, even has some defensive touchdowns. Merrill Hodge is a guy you could put at wide receiver. And good thing about the Steelers, they have a good special teams game. Gary Anderson's good. Could kick some deeper field goals. And since their right tackle has a 44 max speed, they have the fastest kick returner in the game, no matter who you put there, tied with the Saints. How will Joseph fare with the Steelers? He'll be in every game. He's a good game planner. I'm looking forward to see what he does with the Steelers because I haven't played him too much with him using the Steelers. So I'm really interested. I think I did play him in the Equalizer tournament, Steelers versus Falcons, but I forgot who was who. It was a close game. But he'll be in every game, so it's a good pick for him. Then the next pick was myself, and I went with the New York Jets. So we've been doing the family Christmas Eve tournament for 12 years now. I've won 11 out of 12 of those. Sean won the other one. And here I say I played over 1,000 games of Tecmo, less than 20 with the Jets. And I really think that's about accurate for me. I did go through a little stint of practicing with the Jets just because at tournaments I've had so many people call Jets Saints, and I didn't use either team. So I'm like, I got to look at the rosters and look at one of these teams and see who I like playing with. So I can use the Jets a little bit. Last time I used them was in a Jets Saints at Tupa Bowl in Ohio. I played Brian Adams, and I was able to just barely get out a win with them, I think on a last-second field goal. So see the roster and why I picked the Jets. I had the option of the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Saints as well. The Cardinals probably fit my play style of scrambling QB. And then they have Johnny Johnson with a little bit of running speed at running back or max speed. But they just don't have much speed at all at wide receiver. And they really don't have good pass control either at quarterback. So I went with the Jets. Ken O'Brien, in that tier, he's the best quarterback available. I like him because he's got that 50 pass control, which is average, and the 56 passing speed. Gives a little bit of zip so you can hit some burn routes, get balls in there that other quarterbacks in this tier can't get in there. So he was a big reason that I picked the Jets. Also, offensively, since I wasn't able to get the Steelers, they do have a one wide receiver that's worth throwing a couple balls up to, and that's Al Toon. He's got a 44 max speed, 69 receptions. And you have a few running backs with 44 max speed, which is one notch lower than I like, but if their condition goes up, I can put one of those guys and they can make a difference. And 44 is enough to get some small chunks down the field. Yep, that's right, Road Gamer. They do have a stud safety. I'm going to talk about their defense in a moment. But yeah, don't really have a good second wide receiver. Mark Boyer's not bad as a tight end, has some good blocking ability, and a 50 receptions. O-line, they're a little bit below average, but that will get the job done. Their D-line is really poor. Low hit power, slow. But thankfully, they have a couple stud linebackers and one really good safety. So the Jets are a unique team. What exactly is this, Megadan? This is a league that we're running. We play on Monday nights, and throughout this football season, we are playing a league. We have 15 guys playing Tecmo Super Bowl. We each drafted a team, and it's curved based off guys' skill. So, guys who barely play the game, like have the 49ers and Oilers, and then guys who are more skilled have, like the team I'm looking at now, the Jets. And then there's even a couple worse teams that guys have that I'm going to talk about in a moment. So the unique thing about the Jets is the two linebackers here, Dennis Byrd and Kyle Clifton. Dennis Byrd, he has a little bit higher interceptions, but he's a 69 hit power, 56 max speed. He could bust through the line on some of those sweep plays. He's going to be nice for that. But Kyle Clifton, there's not many guys who have this unique 50 interceptions for a linebacker, and his speed's not bad either, 50 max speed. So he's a guy who could bring back in coverage and get some picks. It also brings an extra defender back there. So a lot of times, if 3 or 4 guys are covered, you get that fifth guy, and they run out of options, and you have someone that you can trust even against some of the best receivers in the game. Thanks, Megadan. I should be the Patriots? I don't think I should be the Patriots. But now here's the other thing. Like I said when I was talking about the Matt's team with the Raiders, if you're gonna have your best defender, I rather him be the top side safety, and that's what I have with Eric McMillan. He's got a 56 max speed, which is just about as fast as I like the guys to be. No slower than that. Is a guy I'm going to man most of the game. 63 interceptions, so I'll be able to cover some of the best receivers in the game with that, and get around the field as well. So that's going to help out a lot. The rest of the secondary, it's about average, but it's not going to hurt me. 44 interceptions, guys. You guys have the schedule. We're playing the 1991 schedule. We're going to play all the man games first, and then we have a tier system of players that are regulars that will play the other guys for the computer games. So every game we play is going to be man-on-man. You're going to see a lot of these games on Monday nights. This next Monday night coming up, we're doing a Madden 2001 tournament on PS2. But then after that, you're going to see more of this league. So we're doing T-shirts. We're going to have cash prize. It's going to be a good time. And then the Jets, Pat Lee, he is second best kicker in the game. So I'll be able to kick some deep balls, play field position when I have to. But I think offensively, I'll have enough most games to score the amount of points I need and enough defense to stop even the guys in tier 3, 2, and 1 because of Eric McMillan and Kyle Clifton. So I'm happy with the Jets. You know, I did want the Steelers, but I was really worried about using that offense the whole season. With the Jets, I'm not worried about using their offense, and I really do feel like I have enough defensively to stop some of these other teams. So it's almost a blessing more than a curse that Joseph picked the Steelers, because I think they might be a better team for me. I haven't played a ton of games with them, so this will just help me be more comfortable with the Jets, and when I play in tournaments for some money, they're a team I might go to and call in matchups more often. Yeah, I know. When Madden 2001 came out, the graphics were like, oh my goodness, this is the best football graphics we ever seen. And one of the reasons we went with Madden 2001 is because the PS2 version is the definitive one. It wasn't out on GameCube yet because it wasn't out, or Xbox. The PlayStation and N64 ones are inferior. That one's just way better. Plus, the controls are still retro. There's not like a bunch of advanced things like hot routes and line shifts and all this stuff that were in later Maddens, which were great, but we're not going to pick up those. It's not all the guys that are playing are going to pick up all those things right away. So it's more just about raw football strategy, and we're looking forward to it. So check that out on Monday night. We'll see how many people we have. Hopefully we have at least 5 to 8 players, and it's going to be a double elimination tournament. So yeah, I got the Jets, and I'm pretty happy with it. I just don't have anything elite on offense, but I have enough to get the job done. When your QB got hurt, Pat Summerall said, oh no. Yeah, Pat Summerall doesn't show a whole lot of enthusiasm in his commentary. That is for sure. So we had one guy drafting in tier 5, and then another guy that had a tier 5 team, and I'll talk about him in a second. But Flo's the Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship or champion, and we just had that tournament back in June. The Hardcore Championship is, we don't play any rules. Whatever the game allowed you to do, you could do it. You could dive with your defensive lineman. Yeah, Flo, perfect time for you to start watching. I'm talking about your team right now. But yeah, the hardcore championship is you just play the game how it came. And I think, you know, if there's any players out there that still want to get into Tecmo Super Bowl and have not played some of these tournament rules, that's the best way to get them back, because they don't have to worry about any of the rules that were put into play. They just play however they play, and that's it. But Flo, he's known for being the biggest trash talker in Tecmo. I think a lot of times he's joking, but sometimes he's not. But either way, he's talking trash. And then he hates finishing third place. He had a little minor, maybe a little alcoholic outburst in Blono Tecmo this year. Then, like, his third place finish, threw a trophy across the room, and it broke. But it was a pretty funny time, and I think most people got a kick out of it. But, you know, obviously he rebounded from there. Seeing the picture here, he's got the hardcore championship belt. And he wore that proud at Midwest Tecmo Super Bowl. So how do they think Flo? I blame the alcohol. Yeah, the one thing about the Blono Tecmo tournament is the alcohol flows, because there's really no one monitoring it. It's not at a bar. It's just beer and alcohol everywhere, and whatever you can pour yourself, it goes down. And so, yeah, that's what ends up happening at those things. But let's see what I think about Flo with the Browns. So the thing is, the Browns have a top 5 quarterback, QB Browns. In the hands of Flo, that's going to be really hard to deal with, because even though he has a tier 5 team, he has a top of the line quarterback, and he's got some scrambling ability. The thing about the Browns is you have to play – if you play an almost perfect offensive game, you can win the majority of your games. But that's easier said than done going up against some of these defenses. Their skill players are all slow. That's really the big drawback of the Browns. They have a little bit to work with. Kevin Mack has the hit power 88, so he can popcorn some guys that are weaker against weaker teams, but he's still slow. Eric Metcalf has, I wouldn't call the 38 max speed having speed, but you know, he can sometimes bust out little chunks of 10 yards, get some first downs. Webster Slaughter is your number 1 wide receiver. 38's a little bit slow for that, but he's got his 63 receptions to go along with QB Brown's 75 pass control. You're giving a guy like Flo, who will sling the ball, a chance to have some covered catches and some JJs, and that's kind of scary for opposing defenders. Yeah, I figured you drafted this team because of QB Browns. It's kind of hard not to pick the Browns. I mean, in that tier, the Packers are another option, but they don't give you much on defense, and they're not as reliable as QB Browns. With the Browns, the game's pretty much in your hands because of him. If you just make all the right throws, you probably can still win most of these games. Yeah, New England with the defense is not bad too, but offensively they're just so slow and they're unreliable because of their quarterbacks. And Ozzie Newsome is a tight end. He's not really that great. So it's really Webster Slaughter, and bounce back and forth between Mack and Metcalf, see if you could get any running game established. That's really the key to the Browns too, because if you don't get any running game established, then your opponent's just going to guess pass a lot, and then you'll get some plays that are called, and it's going to make it tough to move the ball down the field. So that's really the hardest thing. Now, defensively, this is where the Browns have some issues. They're not good on the line. Their hit power is okay, but they're slow. The linebackers, Tony Blaylock is a guy you will see manned a little bit because he's not fast. He's a 44 max speed, and 38 interceptions isn't really great, but in the linebacker positions, that's good. I actually learned that from Cam Puna that Tony Blaylock is the only nickel cornerback that is listed as a linebacker. So he's actually a cornerback, but he's your best guy to use on the top side of the defense. Usually you want your guy on the top side of the defense to be the fastest and the best, but most of their talent comes from the bottom side, and that's Frank Midfield with the 50 max speed, 44 interceptions, and then Mike Johnson with the 50 max speed, 69 hit power. So he can bust through the line on run plays, which is nice, but he doesn't give you any pass coverage. So you're going to see a lot of Frank Midfield, man, but the problem is that he's a bottom side corner, and he could, if he gets run at and knocked out of the play, there's not much drone help to stop a running back on the loose. So Felix Wright, he's kind of an option because there's 50 interceptions, but mainly it's going to be Minfield, man, Johnson, and Blaylock for the Browns. So, you know, the Browns are really just looking for maybe that lucky pick in a game or a fumble. But yeah, the guys that have passing attacks, the Browns are going to have a rough time stopping them. So it's going to have to be offense versus offense game. But if you're betting on any guy to win some of those, it's going to be Flo, because he's a good offensive player, and I'm looking forward to see what he does with the Browns. And he's going to shock some people with them, and people aren't going to like losing to the Browns, but it's definitely going to happen. So let's look at the last team chosen, and this was Mort, who went into the draft just saying that I'm going with the Colts. He's Tecmo's #1 journeyman. I mean, he goes all over the country playing in these tournaments. He plays in more tournaments than anybody. And he's got a lot of tournament victories. Too many to count. He's won all the big ones at least once, it seems like. But the thing about Mort is he truly believes he can win the league with the worst team. I've seen him at DMen Tap the last few times using the Colts to try to get ready. I did play him one game, Falcons versus Colts. I was beating him 14-3 at halftime, but then he scored a touchdown, and I just ran the ball one time and I fumbled, and then he took the lead. I had to force overtime and was fortunate enough to get the ball. And at that point, I didn't mess around. I just threw up the Ryzen because the Colts, they don't have much of a secondary, and we'll take a look at the roster and see just how that looks. But Mort, he's saying I'm the best player in this league, and I still have a chance of winning, even with the Colts. And honestly, I do believe him based off of the game that he played me. He has to play very disciplined, but if there's any guy that could do it, it will be Mort. So let's look at the Colts roster. They don't have a good quarterback. Let's just put that out there right now. Jeff George is rated terrible, 31 pass control. He has a little bit more passing speed, but with that 31 pass control, it's not going to help much. Jack Trudeau is probably the guy you're going to go with, but he's got a moon ball, and his pass control is only a 38. Their one bright spot on offense, if you can say it's a bright spot, is Albert Bentley for a low-tier team. 44 max speed's not that bad. And he has good receptions, 63. They actually have two receivers that have good receptions, 63 and 69. That's Jesse Hester and Bill Brooks. Problem is they're only 38 max speed guys, and they don't have a quarterback that can get them the ball. So I wouldn't expect covered catches. But hey, maybe if Jack Trudeau goes into excellence and one of these guys do, then he'll have something to work with there. But otherwise, the Colts are pretty bad on offense, but they are better than the Steelers, I would say, because of some of these skill players. Offensive line It actually isn't too bad. Only weakness is your right guard. The other guys will be able to hold their own. Defensively, this is where they lack. I don't know what he's going to do on defense with these guys because they are terrible the whole way through. They don't have anyone fast. Their highest interception guy is Mark Pryor with the 44 interceptions. The one thing about the Colts, they do have all their linebackers are just one notch above the 19, which is expected. So that might help out a little bit. But he's not going to be manning any of these guys. He's going to be probably using Mark Pryor a lot and Keith Taylor because he's got a 44 MS, 38 interceptions. The thing is, you know, if a player's smart and he has a passing game, he's just going to chuck balls up against the Colts. That's the way to do it. He just doesn't have the numbers to really combat it. You're not going to want to run the ball versus Mort because he will still shut that down with this. So it really just comes down to like games like he plays Joseph with the Steelers and the Steelers don't have a passing game. Like he might be able to win that game, but if he's playing Ryan Daniels with the Rams, I mean, he's just going to be in a world of hurt. And they don't even have a good kicker either. So he's going to be playing the condition game. The way we're doing it is we're going to simulate up until the game. So there's conditions and injuries. And I did bring up a concern to Mort, like what about some of these games that are scheduled week 15? Are we going to sit there for all the simulated games? And he said, well, if there's guys coming, I'll get some of the, and I know they're coming that day, I'll get some carts ready for those games. So if he's willing to do that, then I say we'll go with it. But he's got the Colts. It's bold going with them because they're really bad. If he would have just even given himself one of the other two worst teams, like the Seahawks or the Patriots, he would at least be a little bit scary because he has something to work with on defense. But this is going to be his largest challenge with some of the players playing in this, especially a bunch of solid players playing with tier 3 teams. Then he's got Flo, who could pass all over him with the Browns. And he's in my division, and I know how to take advantage of this team. I think he'll still play me tough, but it's going to be interesting. So let me get to some of the predictions. So let's look at the teams overall here. So you have two guys in the AFC East. It's me and Mort. We're in the same division. Not like I needed to play Mort anymore because I feel like he's my most common opponent the last 2 years. But, the Jets were the best team available. He only had himself in that division, so I'll get to play him a couple times. Look forward to those showdowns. The Jets don't have anything like super fast on offense, so he'll be able to keep the game close. I think depending on how we do the playoffs, we got 15 guys. We might just eliminate 3 and put 12 man in the playoff. But we're also trying to get at least 3 more guys in the league as we go on. Just guys who come into DMen Tap, because there's been quite a few that come and play a few games. We'll see if they want to join the league or not. But overall, with the Jets, I think I'll be able to win this division. I think Mort's going to play me tough, but when I go up against players, I didn't realize that if I would have taken the Pats, it would be in the same division. Yeah, and we would have had some pretty good games because the Patriots got Lippett, so they at least can do something there. But Flo, you still have Joseph in your division with the Steelers, so those are gonna be some showdowns. I'll talk about that in a second. But with the Jets, I feel like I could shut down the Dolphins because they're one-dimensional Madison rules because they're slow at running back. They have no scrambling, and it's really all up to Marino. Whoever mans the Patriots, I'll be able to take them. And I think if Mort's lucky, he'll be able to split me. But knowing how he plays, he could beat me twice. I don't even want to think about that, though. And the Bills, whoever mans the Bills is going to be a tier 1 type player. Those will be tough games, and then I'll have to look at the rest of the schedule. But I'm happy where I sit with the Jets. So then we look at the AFC Central. We have 3-man teams in the AFC Central. Brian's manning the Oilers. So Brian, I would say overall, through the progression of it, I hope his skill gets better. But going into it, I think he probably has the least. He had that 94-0 loss. He's going to make people sweat a little bit because he has the Oilers, and if he just chucks, he can score some touchdowns. He's going to give Flo more of a problem than Joseph, because Joseph has the Steelers. He'll be able to shut down the Oilers pretty well, and Joseph will be able to move the ball against the Oilers. I mean, I think Flo's still going to take out Brian, but he might make him sweat one game. The real showdowns are going to be Flo versus Joseph, Browns versus Steelers. I'm looking forward to those games because it's going to be tough to move the ball with the Browns. With the Steelers defense, you're not going to need to call much run at all, and they have the pass defense to shut down the Browns. So those will be some showdowns. Let's look at the AFC West. DPS did not choose the Broncos. That could have made this a 4-man division, but it's got 3 anyways. And it's going to be interesting because there's no like elite player in the AFC West. The Chiefs are manned by Brutus, who has some football knowledge but is just getting back into Tecmo. But he got a good overall balanced team. My brother with the Raiders, when he's focused, he could play some of us really tough. We usually give him a team advantage, but I've seen him take people to the wire. So he has the Raiders. He's going to be tough if he focuses for these games. The Chargers, Sean, I think he's the best skill-wise, and team-wise, he's not that below the Raiders and the Chiefs. I think he'll probably win this division. He's got butts, that strong line, and he's got enough defense to pick off the Raiders for sure. And the Chiefs got a little bit higher pass control, but I think Sean will win this division. I'm interested to see how Brutus will play. I can't say I've ever seen him play Tecmo, but I bet he'll have good games with Matt. But I think overall Sean will win this division. Then we look at the AFC or the NFC East, and we got Todd Daniels with the Redskins, and then DPS with the Cowboys. So this is only a two-man division, but they're going to have some tough games against Eagles and Giants for the other guys of that tier that man the Eagles and Giants later in the season. So there's going to be some tough games for them. But Cowboys-Redskins is actually, I think that's a pretty even matchup. It's not something you see called a ton, but, I mean, really when you look at the rosters, Cowboys have probably a better overall defense, but Redskins got those 2 studs at the corner. The corners, Cowboys have a little bit faster running back. Redskins have the better receivers, and then they're pretty much the same at quarterback. So they're going to have some showdowns, DPS and Todd Daniels. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That one, I really can't say who I think is going to win the division. I think it's pretty much a wash. I mean, they're both really good players. I haven't seen DPS play much with the Cowboys, but yeah, they'll probably split their games, and that's gonna be a tough one. That's gonna be a race to the finish. We look at the NFC Central. We have 3-man teams here. The Lions are manned by one of the other Daniels brothers, I believe Kyle. And he got a team that he likes scrambling with. Phil with the Vikings. See, Phil, the thing is, like, he has winning records with the Vikings. Other teams, he takes a lot of losses with other teams, but with the Vikings, he has a winning record and he plays everyone tough. Then Pete, he's a little bit more unknown to me, what he's going to do. I think he has a high upside. The Buccaneers, though, that's a team that you have to play with high skill to be successful with. So he's going to have to progress quickly, but he'll give the Vikings and the Lions fits with Haddix, that's for sure. So if he plays some defense, it's going to be tough sailing for them. I'm going to say the guy who's going to win the division is Kyle with the Lions. Just because he has a team that fits his play style. I have to assume all the Daniels brothers are pretty equal in skill, so maybe he got a higher pick than he should have. I don't know, but the Lions, I think he'll probably win the division there, but it's going to be really tough. These are all tier 3 teams and guys drafted in that tier, so it's going to be a fun division to keep an eye on for sure. And then we have the last division, the NFC West. The 49ers are manned by Marshall and then Ryan Daniels with the Rams. Marshall, he's, like I said, he's a good video game player, but he hasn't played much Tecmo. Going up against Ryan, who has played a lot of Tecmo, he's going to be able to match the offensive firepower of the 49ers. So, it's going to be tough for Marshall to win those games being inexperienced. But if he plays enough games to get those experience, there'll be tough games. But overall, I got to say Ryan is going to win this division with the Rams. But playing the Saints and the Falcons, the guys that are going to be manning those teams are me, Joseph, DPS. So, we're gonna give some challenges, especially Joseph's good with the Saints. Falcons, I feel like they're just a hit or miss team overall, but he's gonna have some challenges there. But yeah, it's looking like a good group of guys, a lot of different talent on the board, and I think anyone has a team that's too skillful for them. I think the big wild cards for me are the other two Daniels brothers. I've seen Todd play; he's really good, but the Redskins, they're a hit or miss team as far as how I see them. I know there's guys who are really skilled with them, like Chris Vogt, but overall, I think most guys they're kind of like hit or miss. I've seen Mort, beat Regulator in a tournament, Redskins versus Chiefs, but then the next game, them totally stinking it up for them and losing for him and losing to the Chargers. So we'll see how it works out. But do I think there's a clear-cut favorite of who's going to win? No, I don't. Mort's going to struggle with the Colts. I like me as the Jets. Joseph's going to be limited with the Steelers offense. I really do like Flo with the Browns, and I think with his offensive efficiency, he's going to take them a lot further than most people think. Pete's a wild card to me. I don't know. Phil's going to be right in it with the Vikings. Matt, if he focuses, he could be a powerhouse with the Raiders. Sean's going to be good with the Chargers, but I think even when he goes up against top-tier guys, if they're on the schedule, it's going to be tougher for him. We'll see how Brutus does with the Chiefs. DPS, I was a little bit worried about him in Tier 3, but since he picked last, he got the Cowboys. The Cowboys are one of those teams that they're like on the edge of in between, like the Tier 3 and Tier 4 teams. But I think he knows how to use the Cowboys. They're going to be a good team for him. And he's probably I think is probably, like I said in his little intro, he's probably the most dangerous player in Tier 3. So I think it's pretty balanced. I mean, the reason we did it like this was Mort's idea, just to get more people involved in playing. We realize us playing every week, playing in tournaments, we're going to be a lot better than guys who just randomly show up, or guys that even want to play. Like, you know, a guy like Brutus wants to get back into it, but he's going to need a better team than some of us, which he does have. Same thing with Matt. Like, he needs a little bit better of a team. So I think this curve is great, and there's going to be challenges for everybody with these teams. And since we're playing in regular season mode and there's conditions involved, it's going to be all over the place. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, you know, we'll be out there on Mondays, and I think they probably want to get at least one Sunday scheduled a month. So we have the Tecmo Players Championship coming up this month. It's going to be the high money tournament, $1,000 first prize at least. So I don't know if it'll happen this month, the Sunday, but we'll be there on Mondays, and we'll get this season kicked off as soon as guys are ready to play the game. So if you listen to this, or you listen to this later and you know some of the players that I've talked about because you either watch on Mondays or you just follow some of the Retro Sports Gaming Monthly where I talk about some of the Tecmo players, let me know who you think is going to be up there for winning this league. I think it's going to be really interesting, and we got a lot of talent as well as, you know, newer players or players just haven't played in a while, and it's going to be fun. I guess the last one, Oilers with Brian. I would love to see him progress with the Oilers and be better at this game. That would be drink one more beer. You know what? I'm drinking this zombie dust, and it's like congesting me. Like I'm having a hard time breathing now. So I think I have to take it easy on the beer. But yeah, Tecmo Super Bowl, Monday nights, DMen Tap. We have a Facebook, it's DMen Tap Tecmo League. If you want to follow it, just request to be in there. We might start a Discord for Retro Sports Gamer and have this as a channel so we can communicate with people who watch. But we'll see how it goes. But if you watch this, thanks a lot for watching. And take care. Have a good night. I think this is going to be my last beer. And let us know what you think the idea of the league and who you think is going to win.